Hey, y'all. Welcome to this exciting episode of Black Beat Podcast. Hi, my name is John Washington, and I'm your host for today. And I'm here today with my managing editor, Miss Fawn Aberson. Hey, Fawn, how you doing today?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm good. We had quite a morning, so I'm looking forward to this next interview. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, who we got in the house with us today, by the way?
Well, John, it's our pleasure. He's oldie but a goodie, right?
Well, who you ain't talking about, my buddy Raj?
Roger Thompson, yes. He's the Vice President for Student Services and Enhancement Management at the University of Oregon, but will soon be have his new role as the 31st President of St. Mary's College of California.
But wait a minute now, Raj can't have all the good luck. Wasn't he the guy that just came up here and bought Concordia for $400 million? Man, what's the deal going on with this guy, man? I mean he's on the fast track going, where is he going to be our next president?
Called the Midas touch or something?
I don't
Is that
know
what
about
you
that.
got?
Hey, Raj,
I'm
welcome
just
to the
happy
set
to be
today.
with both of
Yeah,
them.
welcome to the set today, Raj. We appreciate you stopping in. You know,
Hey, Raj, yeah, but you know, we got to have that conversation. We're going to talk about affirmative action. We're going to talk about, is education still the pathway to wealth? We're going to talk about the political climate on college campuses these days. And then let's end up with, the journeys, looking back at your career here with U of O and what you're seeing for the future. So get after it, Jay.
well, you know, it's always a pleasure, Raj, to have you in the house, man. But, you know, I also know that, you know, you have a big smile, but you carry a big stick. You know, and hey, don't underestimate Raj, because every time, you know, I get this little wind that comes by every once in a while. Somebody whispers something in my ear. Did you know Raj was about to conquer the world? But so anyway, so what's going on down there at U of O, Raj?
Well,
these
yeah,
days?
John, let's hit the affirmative action piece. But, earlier, was that this year or last year? That
Supreme Court.
that
Oh,
they
yeah,
rolled it back.
Right.
And
Right.
Roger, we've been following your career for over a decade, and that was a number one sort of goal of yours at the University of Oregon, and you did some amazing things around there. How's that going to impact recruitment moving forward, not just there, but across the United States?
Well, first, let me just say it's really nice to be back with you two.
Good to see you,
You know,
Raj.
John,
Yeah.
I consider you
Yeah.
a dear friend, and
Hey, same here, Raj.
it's
Welcome
great to
the
spend
house,
time
man.
with you.
Yeah, man. I'm
Say-
gonna miss you, bro. You know,
Me too.
Because every once in a while, you know, man, I think about the U of O and I think about the history, man. And you know, Raj, man, you've been a hell of a catalyst down there. I mean,
Thank you, John.
moving that needle over the years, man, and watching. And I remember when we used to have these little luncheons just to try to establish some relationship, trying to get some students down there at U of O. And I'll tell you, man, what we see today, the changes down there under your watch, man, on this recruitment side, Raj, has been phenomenal.
Thank you, John.
And we appreciate you, man. But so, what's the forecast? What do you think, man, with all this exciting, with these changes? Well, I don't know how exciting they are. They're kind
gonna
of
say,
painful to some
Doesn't
degree,
seem
but
yeah.
Yeah,
but
they
you
don't.
know, pain can be sorrow, or pain can be the next iteration of growth too.
Well, that's the thing. And John, you know us. I mean, we have a great team effort at the University of Oregon. And when the Supreme Court came out and ruled against affirmative action in college admissions, I would say it wasn't a surprise. We'd been preparing for it. You could see how things were going to move. You knew where the court was. There was nothing shocking about it. Now, in my 14 years at the University of Oregon, as you both know, I'm really proud of the fact that, you know, before I came, we were 16% diverse if you measure by race and ethnicity, and today 37% in a state that's not all that diverse, really. And so I'm proud of that. And you know, we've grown African American students, we've grown Latino, Hispanic, we've grown all sorts of student groups, and part of that's because we partner with people like Flossin and the good work that you two do and your whole company does, and trying to get involved in the community, and so all of those things will continue, right? So the Supreme Court can say, universities shouldn't look at race, and the fact is, you know, our commitment to diversity and inclusion and equity, and building a University of Oregon that is reflective, or even in this case more diverse than the state, is something that, you know, my team and I have taken great pride in. And so that doesn't change. When the Supreme Court ruling came down, we thought, well, okay, there's a new set of guidelines, I guess.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that students in the 21st century learn the best when they learn with students that are like them and many students that are not like them. And we still want to build those diverse and inclusive classes. And I'm really proud of the growth that we've had in the 14 years, and none of that should change. You know, and our team is every bit as committed as we've always been to the principles that matter to us.
So this has become part of the tapestry, right? Part of the pattern. And, you know, and that's good. I mean, because if it's the culture, once you build the culture, man, you know, they can come down with all the laws they want to, but if it's part of the culture, it's part of the culture, and it moves it forward. You know, so, Raj, what are you seeing down there these days with all this unrest, you know, especially around this Israel, you know, Gaza deal, you know, and did the campus experience any of that stuff down there?
We did, and I think our students, by and large, protested peacefully. Right, and it's a challenging situation. Obviously, I mean, the Middle East has been difficult for decades and decades and decades, and the University of Oregon's not going to solve that. We've had many United States presidents that have tried to solve it.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think we've tried to do is encourage our students to talk with each other, not shout at each other, but let's just talk to each other about what's happening in that part of the country. You know, what happened initially with the October 7th and what happened to the Israelis, awful. What's happening to innocent children today, awful. I think we can all sort of agree on it's a very difficult situation. And so I think our university senate provided some good leadership. I think the administration, our president, has done the best job that he could to try to navigate through the various things. And thankfully, we haven't experienced what you see at some other schools where it's really become, you know, kind of violent and a little bit dangerous. That didn't happen with us.
Yeah. Nobody occupied your library or
No. I mean, we did have some encampments. Yeah. And that's, you know, university policy. We don't allow camping.
Yeah.
So we went out and we said to the students, "Hey, you know, you're here for a while, but you gotta move."
Yeah.
And but I think the thing that we did that was really positive was we just had good dialogue, and you know, that's the same way we've grown enrollment, right? When we talk about these accomplishments of becoming more diverse, I mean, John said it to open. We did used to have those lunches, you know, 13, 14 years ago, where we'd sit around a table, break bread, and say, "Hey, how can we make this better?"
Yeah. And
I think we kind of did those same things as it related to this issue, but certainly a tough couple months.
Yeah, I just wonder because, you know, college is an institution of education, right? So you're taking classes and those kind of things. But life, you know, happens. Life finds its way into these campuses. And I just, you know, more and more as these young people get older, I mean, I think every generation before says, "Oh, it wasn't like that when I was a kid," right? But they have so much with the digital age and the media.
Right.
What kind of toolkit is the university even responsible for making sure that they get through these issues with some kind of education?
Right.
Is that your role or?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I think, you know, universities have always been places where open dialogue could happen. And that's a good, right? If we think about that over time, you know, I was going to try to quote John Lewis, you know, I'm going to mess up the quote, but right, a little protest isn't bad or something was the essence of what he said. I'm messing that up. But so I think the dialogue's good. I think it does make all of us in higher education think about, you know, how are we delivering education? Yeah. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, if you think about what we do in history courses at universities, right? You can take a Western Civ course and it'll start from the beginning to kind of the Renaissance and then the Renaissance forward. Or in high schools, history rarely gets into the 20th century. I mean, most or the 21st century.
Oh, right.
You know, I mean, I was looking at some history courses and they kind of end with 9/11, which is an important moment.
Sure.
But it's also, you know, a couple decades ago.
Right.
And so I'm not sure we cover current events maybe as well as we should to provide some historical context around issues like the Middle East. I mean, my goodness, that's been my entire life. We've been trying to help sort that out.
I'm trying to tell you, it's no new battle, huh?
Yeah,
It's not a new one.
And so maybe we should examine, how can we create dialogue with our students and our faculty, our entire university community, to talk through some of these issues in a civil way, where we're not breaking into libraries or doing some of the things that you've seen in other places. I think
but
if
your
you
role
can
down
talk
there
to each
wasn't
other.
exactly no mediator, but
Wasn't mine, no.
Yeah, but your role was and is significant, Raj, and and when you think about a 14-year career at the university, man, I can't help but get nostalgic with you, man, because I often say to Fawn is that, at some point in time, doing 10 years of anything, you should arrive to a I know about something. You know what I'm saying? And at 14, you should have some mastery, right?
I hope I've got a little something, John.
That's what I'm saying. So, but when I look back, well, no, I want you to look back, Raj. Take us on the journey, man. What was it like, over the 14 years, and where'd you arrive, man? I mean, with all that insight, if you had to take a rookie and come in and say, hey, I got to leave this job in your hands, right? And what would you convey, man, over the 14 years of experience in history, man? What culminated in you through your knowledge and understanding about students and college and all that kind of stuff?
Boy, that's a great question, John. The 14 years flew by in some ways. Now,
when you're having fun, and
it was awfully good.
Yeah.
We had 8 presidents during my 14 years, if you count the interims and the permanents.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was always a challenge. Seemed like I was always getting a new boss, and 8 presidents in 14 years. I'm glad nobody blamed that on me that they were changing that fast. But when I think about enrollment and some of the things we did, I'm really proud of what we accomplished, and I think it happened, John, because we connected with the right people. I'll never forget meeting Tony Hobson, right up the street from here at SEI, and just having a great meeting with Tony, like in my first year, and talking about how could the university play a role in what Tony was trying to do to help kids in Northeast Portland. And so, we went out, we raised money. We raised $1 million for scholarships that we would partner with kids from SEI. We did even more than that. And now we've got a great pipeline of students who come out of SEI, and that's been happening for a long time. But those 14 years, there's so much that I'm proud of, and I think it gets back to John and I, always share an interest in sports, and John was a far better athlete than I ever was, but I was the guy the coaches always said, if you work as hard as Thompson, we'll do well, I finally figured out Thompson's no good. I just try really hard.
Every team's got a Rudy, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so, but I think we built a good team. We built a good culture. Yeah. I think that matters, where we always put students and families first. And I think if you do that, students and families notice that, and they're receptive to it. I would tell families, hey, I know the most important thing in the world is your daughter or son. It is for any parent. And so we're going to try to do our best to give them a great experience inside the classroom, a great experience outside of the classroom. Yeah. And I think we tried to build a team that thought about things that way. And so through all the changes in the president and all these other things, we just stayed true to just a few basic goals. We wanted to grow enrollment. We wanted to become more diverse. We wanted to try to be affordable for Oregonians in particular. So we raised a lot of money. I'm proud of that. We raised $120 million for scholarships during my time, and it's made a difference for a lot of kids. And so I guess I would tell somebody new, be true to the institution. Do the very best you can for the University of Oregon. If you do that, I think some of the rest takes care of itself.
Wow. Well, man, and that sounds like a franchise player to me, bud.
Yeah, I remember that campaign that we got involved in. It was Lights, Camera, Oregon, right? That was a $650 million raise that year. I don't remember. It was like 2008 or something.
Oh, yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah, that was that lady, that media company down there in Eugene.
And so
that was not with Frohmeyer, was it? Was Dave?
Dave Frohmeyer.
Yeah, it was it.
What an incredible guy.
It was an incredible guy.
Can I say something about him?
Sure.
Dave Frohmeyer, I met him he had just retired when I first came to the university. And I was anxious to meet him because I knew his history, having gone to junior high and high school in Oregon during the time that the Rajneesh and all that stuff was going on in Eastern Oregon. I remember Dave
me
being in the
too.
middle of it. So I was anxious, and he'd been a great president at the University of Oregon. And so one of the first times I met him, he was the one who said to me, he said, look, no matter what you do at the University of Oregon, just be true to trying to serve the state and the university. If you do that, he was such a good man.
Oh,
God
he was
rest his
great.
soul. He was fantastic.
I met him 2 years before you got there, Raj, and he was struggling. I mean, he had just lost his, one of his children at the time, but he had another mission at that time, a different struggle. And it's interesting to speak a little bit about athletics. He stayed awake at night trying to figure out how could he create the culture for
what was truly valuable and worth
right
doing.
in the environment to keep student athletes in tow in the institution, especially black athletes. Trying to somehow now create a culture for him. And we used to take a walk around the campus and we'd talk about this, and I was still close to the athletic scene at that time, and I we'd talk about some of these, but the one thing I always remember Dave said to me was that, I acknowledged was that at that time I was working with gangs and intervention and counseling and all those types of things, and Dave would sort of have a internal passion for like families who experienced the loss of children.
Yeah.
And at that time, who was losing kids was a lot of minority demographics, gangs and all that kind of stuff. And I remember Dave speaking to, Mr. Fromeyer speaking to a group of Hispanic mothers who were survivors who had children who were lost in gang violence. And I remember the synergy and the linkage and I was not remiss to recognize that he had the same level of understanding of this types of depth of pain as these mothers did, because the loss of it. And that always struck me because, he was a politician, a businessman, all of that. But yet he had that ability to reach down and touch the lives of those people, man.
Boy, that's a great story, John. And he was. Anybody who knew Dave Fromeyer, he cared deeply about people. Yeah. And he was just, that was the way he was, and that's what he did. And as you've been, John, you've done so much good work in the community and working with folks through trauma, really.
Yeah, man.
And Dave understood that. It was such a sad story with his daughters. When we built Tyson Hall down at the University of Oregon, dining reports to me, and I was so proud of our dining team. This was after Dave had passed. They went to Lynn Fromeyer, his wife, and we had this concept. We wanted to name our little cafe in Tyson Amy's Corner for Amy, his daughter.
Wow.
And our team asked Mrs. Fromeyer what was one of Amy's favorite dishes. And she loved these pumpkin cinnamon muffins. Wow. And, John, we make them year-round.
Wow.
And we serve them in that. It's just a small way to say to Dave, thanks for everything.
Yeah, he made a big impact on that campus in terms of like when you said climate and culture, right? His demeanor was like you would never have known that he had gone through so much trauma because it was just he had somehow arrived to a next level of spiritual understanding. I think. So.
I you just took it out of my mouth. Spiritual understanding. Anybody that could survive that type of pain, and when you think about trauma, but Raj, what an interesting segue. But so. At some point in time, throughout all that excitement and recruitment, Raj, and us coming in contact, and then I get a little bird fly by my ear that said, because we were all at that time in competition and looking at the Concordia campus when Concordia closed up, right? And we were all, in that battle trying to figure out how to get all that opportunity over there, all the real estate and all that. And then all of a sudden, a little bird come by and say to me, did you know that the University of Oregon, Roger Thompson.
No. University of Oregon, John. But I'll tell you.
Well, I know your pocket's ain't big as Bomber, but, But when I got the message, when I got the news, Raj, and it's interesting how this conversation
Roger gave us the news.
And Roger gave us the news, right.
We
got
a little bird. Right. It was a big duck.
It was a duck that came flying by. But I have to tell you, what Connie and Steve Ballmer did, to make that happen was fantastic. And I just have to share it. driving up here today to come for the interview, I drove up MLK for a couple miles, and I got to that. I don't know what corner it's on, but I saw the sign that said University of Oregon with an arrow, and it really made me proud.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, as I was driving up MLK to your studios, and I was like, there it is. You know, it happened. It really is coming together.
Yeah.
And I still think we have a tremendous responsibility. I have to say this. Our university, I love the University of Oregon. You know, once a duck, always a duck. I have great pride in the University of Oregon. And I hope as we go forward, we partner in the kinds of ways that we need to make a difference in our community. Where the campus is, because that, John, I know is something you're passionate about. I tell people all the time, and I don't want to get too personal, but the three of us had a really great lunch in downtown Portland. And John, I tell people all the time, you gave me a PhD in history about Northeast Portland and African American communities and trauma. That was one of the best lunches I've had in my life, really. And so I hope that we embrace and we begin to partner in ways that can make a difference in this area, because I think that's one of the responsibilities the University of Oregon should take as being new to the community with that campus.
You know, Raj, out of my journey in the last 25 years or 30 years and being in mental health and working with the community in terms of behavioral modifications and developing some types of successful pathways, right, for people to develop and grow in. But, you know, Raj, my heart, for the last 25 years, I kept saying, man, we're missing something. We're missing this front piece, you know, at least for the demographics we served, right? You know, the BIPOC demographics. And I was saying, you know, there's this one piece. We're bringing them to the runway, but the bird won't fly. And I kept asking myself, what's got this bird shackled to the ground? And you know, and as you process through all of that, you realize that trauma is at the base of a lot of the demographics and I kept asking myself, when are we really going to confront the true issue of why these entities or these vessels or these people, young people, don't fly, the businesses don't take off, blah blah blah, right? And so I just happened to get on the advisory committee over at the Bomber.
Mm-hmm.
And our last meeting, I realized, Roger, that it all came full circle for me. I mean, I was really, when we started looking at curriculum to develop the next iteration of interventionists to come into the community from the 2-year degree that the Bomber Institute is putting out. And I was so emotional in recognizing the potential for the next steps of what could come from this. And finally, there's something going on that I think that is the next cutting edge of growth of our society to move a demographic to the next successful iteration of their careers, their lives, or whatever, and community, the whole thing. So I really believe that was a move that I think that's going to yield rewards for a long time. And so much respect to the University of Oregon for taking that relationship on, and the Bomber for making that money investment and all of that. I do hope that as we continue to grow in this process, that it really has the impact that we're aiming for it to have.
Yeah.
You know, and so really much respect to that kind of situation. So not to belabor that, but you know, so.
Well, I'm glad you're involved in it, John, because I think you know, we can have lots of academics and faculty and professors looking at things. We also need practitioners, and we need people that really understand trauma at the depth. And so I'm just happy that you're involved, because I think it'll help shape
community members that
are
in the field doing what we're doing. So that's a gift that I believe is going to keep giving, Roger. And so what's next for Roger? I mean all these big hits. I'm hearing the bird. Well, you said it was a duck. Fawn said it was a duck. Some old ducks been flying around here, right? You know, another duck tell us that you've come to your conclusion at the University of Oregon. Talk
I have
a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's been 14 wonderful years, and so many people have made those years great for me. My heart is full, and but you know, sometimes when you least expect it, something really good can come along. And for me, that was St. Mary's College. It's an incredible place. It's a wonderful community. I was terrible, John, when the search firm first called me. they said, we think you'd be perfect for this. I laughed. I said, oh, come on, I'm not perfect for that. But the more I got to know it, I'm excited. And so to be president of a university and a school, I think is going to really be fun. And, John, they don't play football. That's going to be hard for me.
Well,
but
man,
they're really good at basketball.
Hey,
and
round balls is as good as long balls. Man.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
I was going to say that's new for
never
John Washington, I think.
Him say that.
Well, I'm going to get in round ballers a little bit. I know you round ballers out there listening to me, but listen, any exit out of the hood, any opportunity and pathway out of the hood to your own success, whatever is clever, take it.
Now, Roger, are you Catholic? Do you have to be Catholic to be?
Well, I don't think you have to be, but I am.
Oh,
okay. And I'm a person who doesn't really wear my faith on my sleeve, so to speak. But I think I've been very blessed in my life, and to come as a kid who grew up in Richmond, California.
So you heading home then, boy? I mean, that's because the school is in California, isn't it?
It is. It's in the East Bay.
Wow.
And kind of between Oakland and Berkeley, and if you know where Walnut Creek is, that's where Moraga is. So
Rod's moving on up. Did you know where Walnut Creek is? Who don't know where Walnut Creek is? I think that's where all the money is in California. But yeah, wow.
Well,
so how many students in the?
Well, Moraga is a great place. It's we got to grow our students a little bit. So they were about 5,000. They're down a little bit post COVID.
Okay.
So we got to grow that back. Great academics, strong academic programs, really kind of personalized education, which I think I like. Class sizes are small. It's a Hispanic serving institution. It's nationally recognized, which not too many private schools are that.
Yeah, hello.
Great African-American enrollment, very diverse school. A lot of first-generation kids there, so I look forward to getting to know them. So the academics are strong. Campus is beautiful. Moraga is a cool little community right there in the East Bay. Yeah. Division I sports, which me, I'll like that.
Wow. You mean to tell me they're competing on a Division I with that round ball?
Yeah, they are.
I would have never knew that.
I just
in fact,
wondered,
beat Gonzaga for the West Coast Conference Championship this last year.
I wonder, though, with the kind of climate around religion, right, going on right now. And then I know even just here in our backyard, these churches are empty over here, is there a struggle between like great education, but also sort of religious education? How are people navigating that? Did that come up in your interview process at all or something? Do you think that's why enrollment's down? It's like, I feel like it
certainly
in
came
an all-time historical spiritual deprivation.
Well, you mean religious deprivation?
No. Okay.
Well, I'm just curious if there's a different. Well, okay.
Well, I mean, it certainly did come up.
Yeah.
In fact, I was in one of my interviews on the last day. It was kind of fun. I was with, several LaSallian brothers. That's an order within the, and incidentally, you'll appreciate this, John. So one of the LaSallian brothers, I'm sitting talking to him. I'd done my research before I came in. Guy by the name of Chris Brady. This is going to come together in a second. He has a brother, Tom Brady Sr. You might have heard of Tom Brady Sr.'s son, Tom Brady, with a whole bunch of Super Bowls.
Who is that? Didn't he get a roast just recently?
Yes.
That his kids didn't feel really good about.
So wait. So this is Tom Brady's
uncle.
Uncle.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, now I'm a 49er fan and a Raider fan.
Yeah.
So I admire what Tom Brady did.
Dad. You're going to have some fun with him next year because, that running back they got. Anyway.
Yeah, so you're having the conversation.
So I'm having the conversation, and, the LaSallian brothers say to me, well, what do you think a LaSallian education means? What do you think this is about? And I said to them, well, gosh, you're a bunch of guys that have dedicated your life to this. I've read a book and some articles, and but the one thing I learned through that process was this group and what St. Mary's is all about resonated with me. I think it's why I'm going, because they're committed to first generation. They started committed to what we would sort of call the others, the poor, the students that couldn't get access to education. The students that in Europe were maybe left behind because they weren't from a middle to higher income family. And so the more that I looked into the school and what LaSallian meant, I kind of figured out, well, maybe this is kind of who I've been for a while anyway, because I've always cared about students that are first generation and students from kind of underrepresented, underserved communities, and boy, that's their focus.
Wow.
And so that really resonated with me. And but many of the kids there aren't Catholic.
Yeah.
They're just there to get a good education.
Yeah, they're usually recovering Catholics. But Rod, so tell me, man, I mean, when you're thinking about education these days and the culture and the atmosphere, is education still that pathway, man, to success in your mind? I mean, is the institutions really the place for our next generation of people to go to? I mean, do you see any real change?
The economy, because
I
we're
agree.
looking at economy, we're looking at all kinds of,
So
the prevailing wage, the jobs market, the workforce,
So-
is education still the way to wealth?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it, because what we read, what we see, is that the public is more skeptical about higher education than they've ever been.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, and I've got the data from the University of Oregon, it's still the best investment someone can make in themselves. It really is. From a social mobility, from an economic security, in so many ways. And so when you look at the University of Oregon, our average debt at graduation, is about $25,000. Okay, it's not a small amount. National average is over $30,000, so I'm proud that we've kept it down. But when we look at average earnings over the course of a University of Oregon alum's lifetime, $1.3 million.
Wow.
Now, if I said to someone, over their lifetime, you give me $25,000 in loan, and I'm going to give you back $1.3 million. Well, if the student's a business major, they're going to say, "Can I give you $50,000 and get 2.6 back?" So, right? But I mean, that's a great return on investment, right?
Okay.
Just from an economic standpoint, and that doesn't count students that go on for masters or doctoral degree. Then that earning power actually goes up even higher. So when I look at it, and this is what our team and I talk to families about all the time. There's a lot out there in the media and the press about, is higher education worth it? And the answer is yes, it absolutely is. And some of the people questioning it, it's amazing to me how many leaders in the country, in government, let's say, that are Ivy League educated are now out there saying, well, I'm not sure it's worth the money. Well, you certainly thought it was worth it for you. Yeah. And I think we've got to change the narrative. We have to help families understand that this is the best investment in yourself that you can make. You buy a new car and you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. Yeah. Your value only appreciates as you move on from your degree. And that doesn't count all the other things that are important. Right. I think it's important we have an informed society. Yeah, man. And people that can think logically and reason and live ethically. Those are all important things that I think you also get in higher education. So beyond just the economics, I think there's so many other benefits. But if we just want to talk turkey and bringing home the cabbage, higher education is a pretty good way to go.
But, Raj, let's talk ethics, man. I mean, in light of our society, man, and the things that we're coming through, man, I mean, this whole issue around our presidential and political agendas, I mean, when you think about Ivy League, I came through those kinds of institutions, man, and, ethics and integrity and morals, all these kinds of things was topics of conversations when we get and damn important that you get some of this stuff, man. And but now we have a society that this whole notion about who do you believe, me or your lying ass eyes. I mean, man, how are you contending with that on college campuses, man? That kind of ideology that's fraudulent, that whole view that comes in that you will use the lie more than the truth, and is it having an impact at all on students and stuff like that, man?
Oh, I think so, John. I mean, I think you hate to blame sort of social media, but you can read just about anything on social media, right?
I'm trying to tell you.
And who knows what's accurate. So I think that there's still there's still a place in higher education for us to talk about those things that you just mentioned. And I think we need to do that. I think we owe it to our young people, right, to talk about those things. And, I tell my team, because I believe it, every day, if I can't get up every day and look myself in the mirror, something is wrong.
Yeah, man.
And we need to get back to integrity and ethic. Those things matter. They should matter. And I don't know where we drifted on that. But I don't know. Every person. I mean, I look at you, John. Flossing is you. Everything about this organization relates to you, John. And the successful people that I know in my life, they've all got some internal integrity and ethics and substance. That's the right word.
Grit,
substance.
Something that you can't take from me.
That's right.
It determines and dictates my engagement with somebody else.
Exactly. And I think about today's students, particularly the group graduating this year. I mean, boy, they went through it. Right, this is the COVID class. They didn't get a high school graduation.
Oh boy, this is like a gift right here. Because my daughter came through that.
Yes,
she was at high school where they didn't get a graduation, and then we were almost plagued with the campuses being interrupted because all the campuses were closing down because of this issue about Israel and all that.
Right,
and so boy, go for it.
And so I think back to this class that's just graduating college now, your daughter, John. High school graduations canceled. A lot of them didn't get proms. My daughter.
Painful, right? That was really painful for them.
Even their freshman year in college, they also didn't get all that.
That's what I was just going to say. And, I was thinking about this group of graduating seniors at the University of Oregon. You know how they started at the University of Oregon? They were in Matt Knight Arena getting a COVID test.
Oh, wow.
And if they were positive, they were going off to what we were calling our isolation hall until they were clear. And if they tested negative, well, then they could move in like any other student. But I mean, it's surreal if you think back on it now.
Yeah,
and I remember
painful, man.
Yeah, being out there in front of Matt Knight Arena and talking to these parents that unfortunately their student had tested positive, and so that we were going to have to do all this whole isolation thing. I mean, it was really hard. Man. And that freshman year, and I'm so proud of our students at the University of Oregon, because that year, what would be their freshman year, there were so many schools that were having to shut down, send kids home, all these things. We asked so much of our students. We asked them to test every week. They all did. They just went and did it because they wanted to be in Eugene. They wanted to be at the University of Oregon. They wanted to make it work, even though it was unusual. And I told that group of students when they started, I said, every freshman class is different, and every freshman experience is different. But the one thing that all freshman classes have in common, they share that experience. Yeah, and so your experience may be really unlike anything in 100 years, but you're going to share it. Yeah. And so I'm just really proud of this group. But so maybe they're the group with tenacity and grit and a little more.
No, it was definitely resilience. I mean, I get real emotional when I think about the suffering and pain that they went through.
Oh, unbelievable.
And my daughter, she came through it, and it was just so amazing how resilient they were when they walked and they took that paper. They have something a little special that we didn't all have, and they had to fight to get back.
That's right.
And that was special in them. And so I think that's what makes them special, because they fought for what they wanted. And they got that, and they hold it with such pride and such dignity. And I think that when I asked you that question about is education a pathway, if they don't make the money, that's one thing. But as long as they can hold their head up and express their inner dignity, man.
That's right.
And stand up for the things that they believe and articulate the values that they have. Hey, Raj, education was worth every dime of it. And so I'm really proud of them.
Bravo, John. Yeah, I'm proud. I mean, just hearing you talk about your daughter, I'm proud for her. I don't even know her. I mean, that's fantastic.
But Raj, on the backside of that, man, I'm proud of you too. And I think that you ain't getting enough of the respect, man, to understand that, man, that it takes guys like you to get in that trench with all those young people, man, because I don't know how you do it. You show up to them schools, man, speak to them large auditoriums, and do that work that you do, man, and actually hold that and keep that light shining in the doorway for them, man. And that's, man, man, don't even try it. Because if it was in the game, I can only tell you this, man, I would only want a teammate like you, Raj.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Because, you've held true to
Roger,
your color, man.
yeah,
Thank you, John. That means a lot.
I can imagine that they're going to feel a emptiness, a hole in your department. I mean, without being humble, Roger, seriously, what are you going to do to take care of that team? Or, like, how are you going to, what's been the conversations happening?
Yeah, well, I worry about them,
Yeah.
That team, a lot of them have been with me, most of the time. Jim Brooks, who you both know.
Yeah.
Jim and I worked together at 2 different schools.
Yeah.
And so so those were really hard conversations. It was hard to tell them I was leaving. Now, they were all very excited for me, right? They're really happy for me. And one of my colleagues kind of summed it up well. He says, I'm thrilled for you, but man, this stinks for us.
Yeah.
And but we have a great team. We've done so much good work together, and I know they'll continue that. And I hope that they're all so talented. I mean, I think about the group that I work with, and I'm really proud of them. I said to them, I would not have this opportunity without the team that we have.
Yeah, man.
I mean, they've done such amazing work, and I just try to coach them up a little bit, and give them some of the tools they need, and but so it's going to be hard. I leave next month. I start down there July 22nd.
Well,
and so between now and then, it's going to be there'll be some emotion. I'll probably shed more tears than a grown man should. But
you know what? That's
I'm
why
really
you got
proud
tear
of 'em.
ducts, Raj. That's why you got tear ducts.
When you got that call, like, how did it land on you? Like,
this
when
opportunity?
You got the offer, like,
I mean,
were you alone? Were you at home? Were you?
I was at home, and then I kind of got the big call. I was traveling. I was going to go see my daughter graduate from college down in Arizona, the other school, University of Arizona, and my niece had graduated from Washington State. So I was in Yellowstone. I'd never been, and it was kind of spitting snow, and I started talking to the board chair, great guy, the chair of the board down there. He's really does a lot of good work in nonprofit and healthcare, and you both would like him a lot. And but anyway, and so it was one of those moments where you just kind of stop and you realize something big's happening. And I was really excited about it. I have loved every moment at the University of Oregon. I have been so proud to wear the O for 14 years.
Yeah.
And so this opportunity just, all of a sudden, I just turned and I said, my gosh, this is going to happen. And it was really exciting.
Life change.
And people have said to me, oh, it's such a great capstone. You've worked so hard. And, I tell students all the time, and I don't know if this resonates with you, John and Fawn, but, I never really planned my career. I just tried to be the best I could at what I was doing. And opportunities kind of found me in some ways, and but I was just tried to be the best I could. And so I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There's challenges, of course, but I'm excited to build a new team and work together and see what we can do for the Gales, right?
Hey, man, Raj, I know that wherever you go, you're going to bring the grace, my brother.
Sure.
You're going to bring that grace.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
So I just wondered, are you going to write a love letter to the U of O, a goodbye letter? What would it sound like?
Well,
Dear U of O.
Yeah, how about that? I'm just so thankful for the opportunity that I had.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a West Coast guy sitting at Indiana University in Bloomington, and they reached out to see if I'd be interested, and from that time on, it's been a dream. Man. I told people when I came, I grew up in Richmond, California, in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon, for high school and middle school, and so to come to the University of Oregon, that was a dream come true for me, and that's what it's been for 14 years. There have been challenges and tough times, but the good so outweighs anything that was challenging that I think my love letter would be, I hope I left the place better than I found it.
Yeah, man.
And I've enjoyed every moment, and I've been very proud to be a Duck.
Yeah. With that, Raj, I tell you, you got any Man, yeah. Look, you open the door for us, and you get down there to Cali and you and you need your Warriors, bro. You give us a holler. You hear?
Thank you, John.
Because I know all new soil needs to be toiled, and man, you're a workhorse. So, yeah. What was the little boy that every team got? Rudy. You gonna be there, Rudy. You gonna be there, Rudy, right? Hey, look here. You may not be the biggest and the baddest, Rod, but I'm gonna tell you, you got a work ethic that most of them can't stand up against, man.
Thank you, John.
So keep doing what you're doing, my brother. Now, look, on our way out of here, you got anything you want to share with our listeners, man? That we might have missed.
Oh gosh. Well, let me just
on your
say,
heart, dear and tread.
What a pleasure it's been. I consider you both good friends, and so thank you. And it's always fun to come to Flossin, and hopefully I'll get to do it again sometime. But but to the people out there,
anytime, my bro.
Thank you. To the people listening, I listen to your podcast even when I'm not on, John. I want you to know that. There's always good information, and I think just I've always tried to focus on that old quote, right? If you believe you can, you're halfway there.
Hey,
and I think sometimes we need a lot more hope.
Yeah, man.
So
yeah,
keep the hope.
But the universe only chooses that product, rods, that can yield the result. It has got to be tested, tried, and true, my brother. And after 14 years of anything, as I said last time, you will arrive to, and I know. You know something. And after 14 years, it's time to move on, my brother.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, man. Much respect to you, Roger, man. And, again, much love to you. And, Fawn, you got any parting? Got y'all all teared up and everything, but that's okay. It is. And I do appreciate Roger coming on the set to share this with us, because this is a turn of a time.
Yeah. I do appreciate that. Yeah, Roger did open the door for the growth of our organization and the growth of the minds of millions of kids.
Yeah, we're going to miss him.
You do
We're
great
going to miss
work.
you, bro.
Likewise.
So, but anyway, hey, y'all scroll down a little bit, hit that button, subscribe. My name is John Washington. I'm your host, Flossin Media, Black Beat Podcast. Hey, y'all, this was exciting a day, but we out of here. Y'all take care now. You hear? We appreciate you. Thank you.